What would you do if you woke up today with exactly $100 million in your bank account and the absolute certainty that you'd never have to work another day in your life? Most of us think we know the answer, but the reality is often far more complex than a shopping spree. We imagine the cars, the houses, and the travel, yet we rarely consider how our internal landscape would shift. This isn't just a fun daydream, it's a deep psychological exercise called the $100 million simulation. It's designed to break the illusion of your current needs and expose the social performances you've been acting out for years. Today, we are going to walk through this 24-hour simulation together to see what's left when the pressure of survival disappears. Welcome to a journey into the depths of your own motivation and mindset. In this video, we aren't just talking about money. We are talking about the core of your identity and how society shapes your desires. By the end of this exercise, you'll have a clearer picture of what you actually value versus what you've been told to value. We're going to strip away the masks of status and survival to find the authentic version of you that's been hiding under the weight of financial stress. Get ready to challenge everything you thought you wanted. This is the $100 million simulation, and it starts right now. Let's set the rules for this exercise so you can get the most out of it. For the next 24 hours of the simulation, money is no longer a variable. It is an infinite resource that requires no effort to maintain. You can't lose it, and you don't have to earn it. Every bill is paid, every debt is gone, and every physical comfort is accessible with a single phone call. The catch is that you must actually live through the day in your mind, step by step, without skipping to the fun parts. We need to observe how you feel when you realize that the struggle that defines your current life has vanished completely. The first hour of the simulation is usually the most telling because it deals with your immediate environment. You wake up, and for the first time, there is no alarm clock screaming at you to get ready for a job you might not love. How does your body feel when that weight is lifted? Do you stay in bed? Or do you find yourself restless because your identity is tied to being busy? Many people find that without the need to get up, they feel a strange sense of vacuum or even anxiety. This is the first clue. Is your morning routine a choice or a forced performance for a system you're trying to escape? Now, imagine you get dressed, but there's no one to impress and no dress code to follow. You have access to every luxury brand in the world, but you also have the freedom to wear absolutely nothing of note. Do you still reach for the expensive watch or the branded handbag if you aren't trying to signal your status to colleagues or neighbors? This is where the simulation starts to peel back the layers of social performance. If you were on a private island with all this money, would you still care about the brand of your shoes? If the answer is no, then your current desire for those items might just be a performance for others. Next, we look at your breakfast and your physical health. When money is infinite, do you eat the most expensive meal possible? Or do you finally have the time to prepare something that actually fuels your body? Often, our poor health choices are a result of time poverty and stress-induced cravings. In the simulation, you have all the time in the world and a private chef at your disposal. You begin to realize that luxury isn't necessarily a gold-leafed steak. It's the ability to nourish yourself without rushing. The need for fast, greasy convenience often disappears when the stress of the grind is removed. By mid-morning, the simulation asks you to look at your social circle. Who are you calling first now that you have nothing to prove and nothing to ask for? In our daily lives, many of our interactions are transactional or based on shared struggles. When you have $100 million, those struggles evaporate. Do you find that some of your friendships were built solely on complaining about work or money? If you can't bond over the hustle anymore, what is left of those relationships? This part of the exercise often reveals who your true friends are and who was just a cast member in your survival performance. Now, think about your dream car. In the simulation, you can buy any vehicle on the planet instantly. You take it for a drive, and for the first 10 minutes, the thrill is incredible. But by the second hour, it's just a way to get from point A to point B. The simulation forces you to realize how quickly the novelty of stuff wears off. If you are driving a supercar through traffic, you are still in traffic. This realization helps you identify if your desire for luxury goods is about the experience of the object or the dopamine hit of the purchase itself. Midday arrives, and in your old life, you'd be in the heat of work or chores. In the $100 million simulation, your calendar is a blank slate. This is often the most uncomfortable part of the exercise for high achievers. Without a to-do list dictated by financial necessity, what do you actually want to produce? Do you want to write, paint, build, or teach? Or do you just want to consume? If your only drive was to escape poverty, you might find yourself feeling aimless. This reveals whether your passions are genuine creative outlets or just fantasies you use to cope with a job you hate. Let's talk about the performance of busy. Many of us use busyness as a status symbol to show the world we are important and needed. In this simulation, you aren't busy. You are free. Does that make you feel significant or invisible? If you don't have a busy schedule to complain about, how do you define your worth? The simulation strips away the glorification of burnout. You start to see that much of your productivity was actually a performance to prove your value to a society that measures humans by their output rather than their character. By the afternoon, you might think about travel. You could be in Paris, Tokyo, or the Maldives in a few hours. But as you sit in the first-class cabin, you realize that you are taking your brain with you. If you are unhappy with $10,000, you will likely be unhappy with $100 million once the initial shock wears off. This simulation highlights that luxury travel is often an attempt to run away from ourselves. When you can go anywhere, the where becomes less important than the who you are when you get there. Is your desire for travel a search for beauty or a search for an escape? Think about your home. Right now, you probably have a list of things you'd change if you had the money. In the simulation, you live in your absolute dream house. After a few hours of walking through the rooms, it just becomes the place where you live. You still have to do something in those rooms. If your dream house has a massive library, but you never liked reading, you won't start reading just because the shelves are mahogany. The simulation reveals that we often fetishize the setting of our lives while ignoring the actual plot. What is the plot of your life when the setting is perfect? Consider your interactions with strangers. In your current life, you might feel the need to look successful, so people treat you with respect. In the simulation, you have so much money that you no longer care what a waiter, a clerk, or a passerby thinks of you. Do you find yourself becoming kinder and more patient? Or do you become more entitled? This is a crucial test of character. If your kindness was dependent on your social standing, it wasn't kindness. It was a strategy. The $100 million removes the strategy and leaves only your true temperament. As evening approaches, the simulation asks you to look at your family and closest loved ones. Imagine giving them everything they ever wanted. You pay off your parents' mortgage. You set up trust funds for your siblings. Once the initial joy of the gift passes, how do your conversations change? Do you find that money was the main thing you talked about? If you remove the stress of money, do you actually like spending time with them? Sometimes money acts as a buffer that hides the fact that we don't have much in common with the people we are supposed to love. Now, let's look at your hobbies. Many of us say, I'd do X if I had the money. In the simulation, you have the money. You have the best golf clubs, the best cameras, the best scuba gear. Do you actually go and do those things for hours on end? Or do you find yourself scrolling through your phone just like you do now? The simulation exposes the someday fallacy. If you don't find joy in the process of a hobby, you won't find joy in it just because you have the premium version of the equipment. Are your hobbies interests or just aspirational identities? We are halfway through this simulation, and the high is starting to wear off. This is the integration phase. You've bought the things, you've traveled the places, you've helped the people. Now you are just a person sitting in a room. This is the moment of truth. What is the one thing you feel a genuine pull to do right now? If it's something you could actually do in your real life, like reading a book, talking to a friend, or going for a walk, then that is a true need. Everything else you are chasing might just be a performance for a life you haven't lived yet. Consider your physical body again. In the simulation, you can afford the best plastic surgery, the best trainers, and the best skincare. After you've fixed everything you thought was a flaw, are you actually happier with your reflection, or do you find a new flaw to obsess over? This part of the exercise helps you realize that body insecurity is often a moving goalpost. If $100 million can't make you feel comfortable in your skin, then the problem isn't your body, it's your relationship with yourself. True confidence doesn't have a price tag. Think about your legacy. With this much money, you could put your name on a building or start a massive foundation. Why would you do it? Is it because you truly care about a cause, or because you want to be remembered as a great person? The simulation forces you to confront your ego. If you had to give away $50 million anonymously, would it still feel as good? If the answer is no, then your desire for philanthropy might be another social performance, a way to buy a good person badge for your identity. Let's look at the concept of security. We spend most of our lives working for a sense of safety that we never quite reach. In the simulation, you have ultimate security. You are safe from almost every financial disaster. Notice how your breathing changes when you truly internalize this. If you are still feeling on edge, it means your need for security isn't about money. It's an internal state of hypervigilance. The simulation reveals that for many of us, anxiety is a habit that we maintain regardless of our bank balance. What about your purpose? When you don't have to work for money, what work is actually worth doing? Maybe you'd still be an engineer, but you'd build things that solve problems rather than things that make a profit. Maybe you'd be a teacher, but you teach for the love of the students rather than the paycheck. The simulation helps you find your pure work. If you wouldn't do your current job for free if you are a multimillionaire, then you are only doing it for the performance of survival. What is the work you would do for free? As the simulated day winds down, notice the social performance of dinner. Are you going to the trendiest restaurant to be seen, or are you eating what you actually enjoy? Many people spend their wealth trying to prove they belong in rooms they don't even like. The simulation asks you, if you could never post a photo of your meal on social media, where would you eat? This highlights how much of our consumption is curated for an audience. If there is no audience, your needs become much simpler and more authentic. Think about the power dynamic in your life. With $100 million, you no longer have a boss. You no longer have to play the game to survive. How does it feel to say no to things you used to say yes to out of fear? This reveals how much of your current personality is actually a fawn response to authority. The simulation shows you who you are when you aren't afraid of losing your livelihood. Are you more assertive, more honest, more boundary-driven? That version of you is the one that's been suppressed by financial pressure. Now, consider your relationship with time. In the simulation, time is your only limited resource. You can buy a jet to save an hour, but you can't buy an extra hour of life. When money is infinite, time becomes the only true currency. How do you feel about the way you spent your simulated day? Did you waste it trying to feel rich, or did you spend it being rich in experience? This is the core shift, moving from a mindset of gathering resources to a mindset of spending time wisely. What would you do differently tomorrow? Let's talk about the void. Many people, when they reach the end of the simulation, feel a sense of emptiness. The struggle gave them a sense of meaning, and without the struggle, they feel lost. This is a profound psychological insight. If your entire identity is based on the climb, you will be miserable at the summit. The simulation forces you to find a source of meaning that doesn't involve winning a financial race. It forces you to look inward rather than outward for your sense of accomplishment and peace. In the final hours of the simulation, you prepare for bed in your luxury mansion. You realize that the bed is softer, but the sleep is the same. The dreams are the same. The $100 million hasn't changed your soul. It has only changed your circumstances. It has acted as a magnifying glass, making your virtues and your vices larger. If you were a grateful person, you are now overwhelmed with gratitude. If you were a bitter person, You now have the resources to be bitter on a global scale. Which one are you becoming in this simulation? Now it's time to wake up from the simulation and return to your actual life. But you aren't returning as the same person. You now have a list of performances that you can stop acting out. You might realize you don't actually need that expensive car to be happy, or you don't actually need to impress those people you don't even like. By identifying what stayed important in the simulation, you have found your core needs. These are the things you should focus your energy on right now, even before you have the millions. You can start living the authentic part of your $100 million life today. The $100 million simulation is a tool you can use whenever you feel overwhelmed by the hustle. It reminds you that the goal of wealth isn't just to buy things, but to buy the freedom to be yourself. If you are working toward wealth, make sure you aren't building a cage of social performances along the way. Build a life that you would still want to live even if the money became infinite tomorrow. That is true financial mindset. It's not about the balance in your bank account, it's about the balance in your soul and the clarity of your true desires. Ask yourself, what is one thing you did in the simulation that you can do this week? Maybe it's having a long, honest conversation with a friend without checking your phone. Maybe it's spending an hour on a creative project without worrying if it will ever make money. Maybe it's just sitting in silence for 10 minutes. These are the luxuries of the wealthy that are actually available to you for free right now. Don't wait for $100 million to start living like a person who is free from the performance. The freedom starts in your mind, not your wallet. As we wrap up this exercise, take a deep breath and acknowledge the insights you've gained. The simulation isn't about guilt. It's about clarity. It's about realizing that you are already more than your productivity and your possessions. You have the power to redefine your needs and cast off the performances that are draining your spirit. When you live from a place of authenticity, you attract the kind of wealth that actually matters. Remember, the $100 million is just a number, but the life you choose to live is your real legacy. Make it one that is worth living, with or without the infinite balance. Thank you for joining me in this psychological journey today. If this exercise helped you see your life through a new lens, please let me know in the comments what your core need was. I'd love to hear how your simulation went. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on financial mindset and psychological growth. Your support helps us create more content like this to help you build a life of true freedom. Until next time, stay authentic and keep building a life you love.